Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Golden Gate Restaurant Association webinar series, Restaurants Rising. My name is Stacy Jedd, and I'm the president of the board of the GGRA, as well as the co-owner of Blue Stem Brasserie in downtown San Francisco. We are very excited to have you all joining us today. With the shelter in place in effect due to the COVID-19, the restaurant industry is in need of continuous updates, community engagement, and real-time tools to effectively navigate this crisis. We are especially grateful during this time to have Virginia Miller moderating our series for the next few weeks. The topic for today's webinar is mental health resources for you and your employees, and we have a great panelist lined up for this session. May is also the Mental Health Awareness Month, and this conversation is more important than ever. Before we dive into our topic today, I would like to take this moment to share some high-level updates regarding activities shaping the restaurant industry. I would also like to thank everyone for hanging in there and for all of the work you are doing to reach out to legislators and support our community. So at the federal level, the GGRA's Executive Director, Lori Thomas, recently joined the Independent Restaurant Coalition, or IRC, leadership group, and is now participating in the weekly policy committee calls. We are following the policy work that the IRC is doing in Washington, including the recent meeting that was held at the White House with President Trump, Vice President Mike Pence, and Secretary of the Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, along with nearly a dozen restaurant representatives. Hopeful updates include the possibility that this week, a vote will happen to extend the 8-week forgiveness period for the PPP funds to a 16-week period. Hoping for 24, but it's looking closer to 16, and just recently heard Senator Marco Rubio is supporting it. The chance that the usage may be modified to be broader than the 75-25% usage payroll to rent utilities split, and the option to extend the loan from 2 to 5 years. At the state level, a new bill is being introduced on Friday to the committee by Senator Wiener called the SB 939. This bill would give commercial landlords incentives to negotiate with restaurant bar owners on rent relief. Currently provides a 12-month non-payment time frame with rent due added on the back end of a lease, and offers a 3-month out clause should negotiations not work. GGRA is supporting this bill, and we remain hopeful to see some progress here that could really help our restaurant industry figuring out how to work with lease options. And then finally, at the local level, GGRA is continuing to work with the city to move the outside seating street use proposal forward. Hopefully we'll have some announcements soon. If you'd like to get a copy of this proposal, please let us know. We'll be happy to send it on to you. We're also working with the San Francisco Chamber, friends, and others to try and find low-cost or free options for disposable masks. We are working with local vendors on their availability on supplies needed when we reopen for indoor dining, including masks, sanitizer, and disinfectant wipes. And we hope to share these options with you next week. And then lastly, we are working with the Office of Economic Workforce Development, or OEWD, to help make the new health directive and orders easier to understand and follow. The most recent set of orders that were revised on May 15th and set May 22nd enforcement date included a lot of details and caused some angst and confusion. So our goal is to help facilitate the rollout of the dine-in guidelines that would include 1, a summary document, an easy-to-use questionnaire and work safety plan document, a webinar available prior to the enforcement dates, have all of these documents translated into multiple languages, and a clear way for the health department to approve checkoff for each location. Again, thank you for joining us. Now allow me to introduce and hand it over to our esteemed moderator, Virginia Miller, to begin the panel. As many of you may know, Virginia is a food and drink writer and editor for more than 60 local and international publications. She is the founder of The Perfect Spot and is the West North American chairperson for the world's 50 best restaurants. Please welcome Virginia Miller.
Thank you so much, Stacy, and thanks to the GGRA for giving us this platform and this important topic during Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm very excited about this panel. Friends and colleagues across the industry in drink, dining, and many aspects of that. We have everything from sommelier to bar representatives. We have restaurant owners to beverage gurus here. We've got a wide range of people who have a long time experience in the industry, but also have a deep passion and care for mental health, balance, self-care. And during this time when all of us are being hit even harder than ever, and those who are already struggling with mental health are really being hit hard, there's a lot of things to consider. And I know our industry, we all have many friends, colleagues, and family in our midst who is deeply struggling. So I'm really excited to talk with you because you all bring a very different angle and approach to this. So I thought maybe we'd get to know each other a little bit first and dive in. I do want to say to everyone watching that if you pull up your panel on the left, there's a little drop-down box that says questions. So please submit your questions. We are going to take Q&A towards the end here. And a lot of times if we get the same questions, I might kind of group them together, but we're eager to hear from you and what you'd like us to talk about as well. So submit those anytime during our conversation. But first, we'll go ahead and start with Shirley Brooks. And I thought I'd have each of you, starting with Shirley, kind of talk about both your role in the industry and your unique connection to mental health and self-care.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Shirley Brooks. I'm a bartender and manager at Madrone Art Bar and Pops Bar in San Francisco. I also have a cocktail consulting company. And my connection to the mental health is not only having, dealing with anxiety, depression myself, but I also was a yoga therapist and worked with underserved communities, helping people deal with their mental health issues and depression and just getting through the day. So
absolutely, it's wonderful. Vinny, how about you?
Hi, Virginia. Thank you so much for convening this panel, and hi to everyone that's listening or watching today. My name is Vinny Eng. I am a longtime advocate and activist in the mental health community here in San Francisco and also more broadly in the state of California. I, since 2013, have been a member of the Mental Health Working Group, which is a working group convened by the city of San Francisco to support a number of different city agencies as well as nonprofits that are working together to develop better systems to respond to individuals experiencing crisis in our community. So that's primarily my role. That's been a volunteer role that I've had since 2013. Some of you may know me from my previous tenure as a general manager and wine director at Bar Tartine and Tartine Manufactory. And currently I am volunteering as the community organizer for SF New Deal. We're a coalition of 25 volunteers that are raising money to pay restaurants to feed our neighbors in need through COVID-19. So wearing a couple of hats here today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Vinny. Hello, Beck, who is actually, though she lives in San Francisco, is home with family in Australia right now. So it is bright and early in the morning for you.
Yeah, good morning. And I want to echo everyone's thoughts and say thank you so much for convening this group. It's such a critical discussion and something that I think we're all not realizing how much we need it until we really need it. So my name's Rebecca Hopkins. I've been in the wine business for 28 years, my whole career, my whole life, in many roles, primarily sales, communications, distribution. And my connection to mental health is 2 years ago. I started a platform called A Balanced Glass, really as a way for beverage alcohol professionals, hospitality people to connect and start to really find resources and help around alcohol, around self-care, mental health, physical health. And really, we have a really unique community that no one was really talking to or addressing to help us look at really what is part of our daily lives. So outside of the day job, it's certainly something that's another day and a half job, but it's really important, and you know, it's honestly a pleasure and have immense gratitude in doing the work. So thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, thanks so much. And Yuka, you come from the restaurant owner side. Yeah, talk to us.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yuka Ioroi, and my husband and I have a restaurant called Cassava in Outer Richmond. My specific connection to mental health, I would say, is how I can create a happy workplace. And the happy workplace has to come with good culture and also fair pay system. Yes, there are many factors that can cause like a person to have mental problems, but my personal philosophy is that if the work is happy and then if you feel like you're getting paid what you're supposed to, money can bring a lot of stress. So that's how I approach, and my circle of influence is very small. It's just within my restaurant, but then, you know, I hope to share this message about fair pay in restaurants and thus creating less stress for working place.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. So bringing all these wonderful perspectives together, obviously pandemic times and the great stress we are all experiencing is affecting health, finances, so many levels. If we already have addictions or struggles with depression, it's just heightened. And those of us that didn't think we did are also struggling with that. All of us are affected. So let's start with Shirley again, but anyone please will jump in as we discuss here, is how have things changed now in pandemic? How do you feel things are heightened? Where do you see some of the greatest areas of need? And you could address this personally, with your broader communities, whatever angle you'd like to come from, or both.
Well, one thing is we were, you know, being in the service industry, bartenders, servers, we're around so many people every day, like a full bar, full restaurant, dealing with, you know, hundreds of people every day, to not seeing a single person for months. It's been quite a shock to the system, and a lot of people aren't, you know, really handling it well. You know, it's been the adjustment has been tough. You know, and also for people that are dealing with depression and addiction, it's, you know, going to work gave you a reason to get up, shower, leave your house, you know, and feel productive. And now that's, you know, that's gone. So it's a lot easier for people to slip further down into their depression or their addictions, and there's nobody there to help them address it or to stop them, to see what's going on. But definitely, you know, not having the context with your regulars or with your coworkers has been a real shock. It's
Yes.
one of the hardest. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Shirley. And anyone else, please feel free. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with everything Shirley's saying. I think certainly what a lot of us also have is, you know, we're now at home, and if you're in any form of role where you're involved with the drinks business, you got a fair, free access to alcohol. And we can, to your point earlier, you know, if you already had challenges with it, you've now got not only the abundance, but also it's in private. And, you know, so therefore that can bring a whole slew of challenges around self-discipline, around, you know, routine, and around restraint, which is really hard to dig in and find when you can't even work out how to put your pants on in the morning. You know, like me this morning, actually. And I think that's a big, you know, that is a real challenge we have. We're in, you know, we're in service. We are in our places every day, and we are getting constant feedback. And when you break that feedback loop, you know, it starts to get real quiet, and it can be a real challenge. And then you add the abundance or the availability of what we love, it can get really slippery.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I also think that when our jobs, we become families also. So not, we have really close relationships with our coworkers. They're the people we see the most every single day, and being separated from your family has been really hard. And lots of Zoom calls and phone calls, but it's it's just not enough, and we're not able to like put each other in check or see how each other is doing. So that's just another point to it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if I could add something a little bit, because we're in the restaurant industry, and then it's such a hard hit industry that we know so many people that lost jobs, and we know so many people that had to close restaurants. We know some people that lost family members, because we come across with a lot of people, the coworkers or regulars. So I think collectively we were dealing with grief without really realizing. So like having that connection cut off while dealing with the grief was really hard. And now it's almost like a fatigue of this news every day, and then the grief haven't been resolved, and then all these social problems that was covered before, it's all coming to surface. So all these things are, hard. We're hoping that this can be paradigm shift, and that it's an opportunity to, possibly right the wrongs. But it is exhausting, so that can be definitely part of a stress. So we try to address that by, speaking to each other, have meetings with each other and stuff like that. But yeah, it is exhausting, and it's you always have a little bit of sadness, right, about what happened. So that's been, I would say, like one of the biggest challenges.
Yes. Yes.
If I may, in addition to making sure that you continue to reach out to your community, especially in a time when we're not convening in the spaces that are often the safest or most familiar. In my little tagline, you'll see an 855 number. That's a 24-hour peer run warm line. It's a support line for anyone that's watching, and you can also share it with anyone in your community. This is volunteers are standing by waiting to talk to anyone that calls in. These are volunteers throughout the state of California. And so a lot of topics that come up are not new. They're just sort of framed in a very different and unfamiliar way for many people in our industry. And acknowledging that maybe the people that are closest to us aren't necessarily the people that we might want to open up to first about the experiences that we're encountering in this very uncertain time. So for anyone watching or listening, there is a 24-hour peer-run non-emergency line that is available and free and accessible that I would encourage you all to just jot the number down and share it with your community.
Excellent. That's so good, Vinny. Thank you. Yeah, so this brings up for me the question of these problems are clearly heightened to a level in a way really we've never seen before, and the catastrophe and crisis is global. So what are some things that you'd like to see change, or some things that that are available? And I'm thinking already of things like that Vinny's involved with SF New Deal is very forward-thinking, progressive, righting some of those wrongs, like you said, Yuka. Also, Yuka, I know you're one of the few employers right now that's been keeping your staff on and doing the best you can to keep that team intact. So those are key things that I see already happening, but what are some things you'd like to see happen or that you see starting that are really crucial right now? And let's start with Vinny, if you're up for jumping in first, Vinny.
Well, I think, at this time, to the core, most of us that are professionals in this industry really derive a lot of pride in how we take care of others. And it's a real nexus point for us to expand and broaden the definition of what it means to take care of our community when the normal ways of doing it aren't available. So, we're used to feeding people. We're used to making sure their glasses are filled. We're used to making sure that we seat people on time, and that we hold the door open for everyone that goes out, or that we acknowledge all of our vendors as they come in and out of the door. And I would just say that, like, the most impactful thing that you can do right now is look at your community and really reach out to the people that you know are closest to harm, the people that are like that haven't received any government relief yet. Like, check in on them. The people who don't speak English as a first language, like, find a way to reach out to them. You know, reaching out to people who may be physically limited in their mobility, and making sure that they have groceries. Anything that you can do to reach out to people who might not have as much mobility as we might be privileged to have. You make sure that they have their essential needs met. So that's one really way, like one way of just sort of creating a little bit of peace in your life is extending a little bit of compassion to someone else.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Vinny.
May I add the part of keeping all the staff? One of the reasons why it was possible is because we were one of the few businesses that received both PPP and EIDL. PPP funds for 2.5 months of payroll that would have been, I've exhausted all of it already. We've been paying our staff. Currently, our restaurant is closed, but then they've been receiving $25 an hour on scheduled, you know, what would have been their original schedule. And I'm able to do that and then completely use the funds because I received the EIDL. So when I speak about PPP and then how it should be fixed, you know, I'm not sure if I'm in the right place to be able to do that. But in the beginning, before any funds came in, how I was able to sustain the pay of our staff was 1, GoFundMe, and 2, we were still doing regular takeout and stuff like that. But how they were able to receive pay equally is that we have tip pooling system from the very beginning. There's no pay difference in front and the back of the house at our restaurant. And the ones that's been working with us for a while, they had enough saving that, you know what, we can just take a month off and then we're fine with money. And the ones that really needed money, you know, they received shifts like with priority. We do have 2 Central American younger gentlemen that's in the process of getting the refugee status, and they just became the only person in their households that have the job. You know, like this Russian crisis does hit Latino community very impactful. You know, so it was entirely like the whole company's you know, decision that all of us wanted them to have money coming into them because they're not going to get stimulus, and they're the only one that's working in restaurants, stuff like that. But just, you know, just when we raised the GoFundMe, there was no discussion where like, oh, who's going to get more, or he's like just a dishwasher, so he shouldn't get more, like, oh, he's serving, like they should usually get more. No, like we spread it equally. Everybody got $1,200 before their stimulus came, you know, all these things. But just having that no, you know, separation between front and the back really gave them better financial foundation. So not right now, but this year we were averaging about $15 to $18 an hour in tips on top of their regular salary of $17 an hour. So everybody was getting about $32 an hour. And everybody does, you know, like different positions, but we all contribute to sales together. So, you know, I advocate for that, you know, if everybody, when we come back from this crisis and the restaurants start opening, I really want like restaurant owners to start thinking about having more solid financial foundations for the staff. Because it really helps like your restaurant, like you're able to close and then you don't have to worry about, you know, money as much as when somebody would just get in like $16 an hour and they're coming from Oakland and then, you know, they're spending money on BART and all these things, you know. I'm not sure if I'm still on topic, but that will be like my 2 cents. You know, like I'm a strong believer that like the financial situation does bring a big stress. So one of my huge focus in the business is to try to mitigate that as little as possible for my staff.
Yes, that's excellent, Yuka. Yeah, and I'm thinking things I've long loved about Japan, and I know many chefs did try to do that here over the last few years, is having that no tip, just bring the menu items up a few dollars each, and that all goes to equal pay or to a more fair pay for all staff. And the hard part too is educating the public on that, because they'll sometimes see those prices and go, it's more expensive here, I'm going to go to that other restaurant. But I've longed to see that kind of universally happen, or happen across the city, and then it becomes the new standard or the new normal, right? You're not going to tip, but you're going to pay everybody fairly, and your prices are going to reflect that. They're going to be a little bit higher, but everyone's included. And like you said, this is a long-term effect on mental health and our future. One of those changes that we, in a way, as many people keep saying, there are things that haven't been working, and this pandemic is bringing that to mind. If our industry can collapse overnight, or so many people are left stranded, we've got a serious problem. So that, I think that's a great point to bring up. Yeah, Shirley or Beck,
Yeah.
how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would add to this that for those at risk, you know, it can be a really difficult time if you're in a difficult place to come back from that. And so, you know, one thing I think is important to harness the power of technology. And while we can't be in each other's company, shoot a short little video to someone that you're worried about. Tell them how much you love them. Tell them how much you value what they do. They can watch it when they're in a space they can keep it as a cheer up. I think it's really important for those of us who are able to support that we do. It's important that we share as much information and as much good work that our community is doing with other people in the community. Number one, it helps amplify, because, you know, none of us are out there with huge budgets to do anything. But also it gives us a sense that we're not alone. And, you know, if you follow Kat Kinsman and you follow the Communal Table podcast, you know, her work is so critical to our industry right now. And also because we're hearing from people like us, and, you know, just that feeling that someone else might be dealing with a similar issue or going through something that maybe we can learn from, or that maybe we can share with someone. I think it's really critical, and it's something that, sure, we can have overload of tech, but it can also really work to help us stay connected when we can't see people.
That's excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Beck.
And when, you know, reaching out to your coworkers and staff members during this time, a lot of people haven't gotten unemployment, haven't gotten their stimulus. A lot of times, people don't know how to do it, or they've, you know, run into so many roadblocks. So, you know, with a couple of my coworkers, I've helped walk them through, you know, the process. And so, you know, reaching out to you know, to the ones that you're close with, or you know, that are having a hard time. That's a big thing, I think, you know, because if nobody reaches out to them, it's hard for them to reach out to you because they don't know that you're willing to help.
Yeah,
No,
that's
I'm sorry. I really agree with the part. I'm sorry. That, you know, it's I was told this by our staff that it's really hard for them to reach out to me to ask me, how can I apply for unemployment? How does this work? How does this work? But and then, or like, even like when you're getting hired, like, how much do I get paid? That's not a question that like people like to ask the potential employers, or, you know, like, hey, what's going on with my check? But I really keep that open discussion and like the community, like communication. I advise everybody how to apply for unemployment like early March, because I knew that this was coming, and then, you know, and then I've been on top of it. So it's a really good point, and I wish that the restaurant owners were more proactive in providing this information to the staff. I know they're dealing with a lot with their business on the line and stuff like that, but when you're an employer, you're responsible for people's well-being, you know, especially financial well-being, and so you really have to do this. I really wish more restaurant owners like reached out with the education and the resources, you know, so that would be like one big thing I want to come out of this pandemic.
excellent. Thank you so much. So maybe taking it just a little bit personal, since this is affecting all of us, is to, if there's any habits or resources or outlets or practices that are really helping you get through this time. I think we can all keep learning from each other on those tips as well, and especially since you're all so in touch with this side of things. Maybe Beck, we'll start with you. Has there been anything that's been really helpful, especially you're so far away from, you're with your family community and your community you grew up with, but you're so far from all of us here now. So how are you handling all that?
Yeah, the single, it's tough because the single biggest adjustment is when your family, when my San Francisco family are awake, I'm asleep. And when they're asleep, I wake up to, 100 odd emails and phone calls. Routine is critical. And I think that no matter where you are in your place, find the time to really keep your routine of sleep. Keep your routine of get out of your pajamas. Keep a routine of do things that bring joy, whether that's just making coffee in your favorite mug. In terms of practical resources, I think for the drinks business, Southern Glazers have actually done a great job in developing a section on their website, which I'll share as part of the notes, called Southern Glazer Wine and Spirits Customer Care. And it goes through a ton of resources from employer to employee. There's useful things on there about alcohol and mental health, but they've really stepped up, and so it's critical, I think, as a resource for the industry. They are obviously the giant, and they have absolutely a moral responsibility to do this. And much like Yuka, I want to hold the beverage alcohol industry accountable to do more to look after our industry, because I don't think they do enough. And then, moving your body is important, whatever that is for you. Some people go overboard and go into crazy workout mode. Other people find it hard to get out of bed. But moving your physical body is important to remind your body that you're still in your physical form. You're used to walking floors and, working 12, 14 hours on your feet. Your physicality is going to take an impact, So Kat Lilly in Vegas has a great free Facebook group and YouTube channel called Core, C-O-R-E. And every day you can get up and work out with her in her kitchen. She's been in wine service for her whole career. And I would also add, again, back to Food and Wine Pro. If you're not on that newsletter for industry, every Friday, Hunter Lewis, the editor-in-chief, brings out free information updates. There's a mental health resource guide that has 50, 60 different places you can go. So I'd certainly throw those in.
Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you.
I also have a couple resources for people in San Francisco for free healthcare, free mental health healthcare, and one of the biggest things I think has been therapy. And it's great that we can do Zoom and talk on the phone, and there's a lot of services that are out there now. Like I know the Heal app is offering therapy over the phone, so you don't even have to leave your room if you're not able to. For me, I think it's hard sometimes when you're really deep down in your depression. It's really hard to just get up and do anything. But I had a neighbor in San Francisco do something that was great. Just to get some vitamin D, she just stuck her legs out the window. So you don't even have to leave your house. You can just, stay by a window and get some fresh air. One of my biggest things has just been taking time and breathing, breathing into myself and remembering, that I'm still here and I still have things to do. I still have a job to do. I still have a family to take care of. But finding something, at least one thing that you can do per day that gives you, purpose or, brings you joy. Like you said, of making a cup of coffee or, watching a stupid show, anything that can bring you some sort of joy. And if you do reach out to, other people, like, that might be your purpose, that, maybe you're here to, help your friends. So doing the one thing I think is great. And yes, therapy. Lots of therapy would be great.
It's crucial. Thank you.
Can I add, Virginia, one resource I failed to mention was the United Sommelier Foundation. They are both, particularly for the sommelier community, they are both receiving financial donations from the industry and also dispersing funds to people. There's an application process, and in a very short amount of time, they've really ramped up. They're doing incredible work. They're doing an online auction this weekend that will raise a lot of money to help some really important causes. So the United Sommelier Foundation .org is their email. So
excellent, thank you. And Vinny, I know you have this great number up too, so this is an important resource. I took a little screenshot of it, so I have it to save and share. But yeah, Vinny or Yuka, other thoughts, that personal habits that are helping, or other resources? I would love to keep sharing resources too. This is great.
Make sure you stay hydrated with water. This is so important because especially as most of us are finding that we're at home more often, I find myself opening up the fridge much more frequently than usual, and it may be because you're thirsty, not hungry. But more importantly, to Beck's point, routine is key. Have a buddy. If you're someone that finds it really hard to get out of bed in the morning, find a friend, and just make sure you text each other first thing in the morning. It doesn't even have to be about anything except, hey, good morning, because the way that you the momentum that you enter into every day is really important, and having someone to encourage you to get your day started can really literally get yourself off on the right foot. And another great resource for individuals is the Southern Smoke Foundation. Is a national foundation, and they have a number of resources on their website for unemployment, for undocumented workers. They also have a access line that they support through the Lovett Foundation, which is another phone-in resource. But they're a national resource. They teamed up with Food and Wine Magazine, and the Southern Smoke Foundation has been raising a lot of money and also awareness that in a time when many in our industry are out of work and feeling anxious about the future ahead, that the best thing that we can do is just support each other and do what we do best, which is take care of strangers. So Southern Smoke Foundation is a great resource.
Excellent, thank you. How about you, Yuka?
I don't have any professional resource to add, but I will say that my cat and all the animals is really helping me with the anxiety. So I'll just comment on that. But,
excellent. Yeah. And do you find that it's more, are you working more hours than ever, similar, or are you getting a sense of balance more in this time?
I'm definitely working from home more, and then you can work from home in bed, which is kind of good and very bad. My husband's been in the kitchen more. He's finding a lot of freedom from reading cookbooks and then things he couldn't do before. He's making a lot of pastas, dry pasta stuff. We couldn't do that before. We don't have a dining room anymore, so he has a bigger kitchen now. So those things are giving him great things. And then meanwhile, I'm talking to you guys at home, and then my cat's next to me, and then that's kind of the routine now, I think.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, and also one of our attendees just shared, talked about the Calm app as well, Calm, C-A-L-M, and through Kaiser is offering a free subscription. So that's a good tip as well that just came through from one of our attendees. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, so
there's also the Headspace app, another free therapy app. And also if you're in San Francisco, there's a organization called Access, and they will help you find a therapist or a psychotherapist for free or sliding scale if you don't have insurance, which many people in the service industry don't. So.
That's right. Yeah, and also Tobin Ellis in Las Vegas, I know he's got it's a really nice compilation on barmagic.com. /relief. And it's literally broken down by all types of resources. So it kind of helps you get to a bunch of websites on one page. It's broken down by relief, aid, support, health, petitions, financial options. So that is barmagic.com/relief, and it's just helpful for a lot of things compiled together. I guess we do need to move to questions in a moment. We've got a couple here I would like to bring forward, but I did want to kind of talk, you know, it's hard to say now post-pandemic, because as we know, there's some things that are going to change sooner rather than later, and there's other things that are going to unfortunately be with us for a while, and some changes that are kind of long-term or going to drag out here. But looking ahead, we've touched on it a little bit, things that we would like to see change. We can approach it that way. This last question, I would say, either things you'd really love to advocate for, see change in terms of our mental health, our sense of balance, our self-care in this industry, or lessons that you're learning already, things that you feel like, okay, I already see a new world or a new way in some of these areas. So yeah, lessons learned or things you'd like to advocate or push for the future. And maybe we'll start with you, Yuka. I know you've already mentioned a really important one in terms of fair pay and equal pay for your staff.
It's I'm originally from Japan, so mask wearing is not like so weird to me personally. We see a lot of people wear masks all the time, and the whole idea of you wearing the mask to protect others, or you don't become bother to society, that idea is not new to us. And then most of East Asia, it is a little stunning for me to see this mask thing has become such political thing, and then that it's weird, like them wearing not mask makes them patriotic. I can't even like speak correctly, because like the idea is so broken. But just that, I don't know, it's the whole like accountability and responsibility, and then what you want to do for society. That idea, like, I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but it is a little heartbreaking to see the breakdown of that, you know, in America. And this is the only country that's happening, you know. So yeah, hopefully people learn from this. And then that I will also say that when governments come to businesses, say please close for public good, I feel that they should have done that with the cash in their hand for businesses. So I feel like hope, and then the EDD, like, you know, it's so crazy, and then people came in and they couldn't support. All these things like need to really, really change. Like again, I'm saying, like, you know, a lot of sanity and daily life can come from financial stability. So I think these are really important. So hope, and I'm not sure if it's going to be post-pandemic. I think this is going to stay. A lot of people are expecting the second wave and third wave. This is a good time to reorganize the society to be ready next time. Hopefully that can happen, is my hope.
Yes, it's so important. Thank you, Yuka. Thank you.
I think to build on Yuka's recommendations, it's so important to have a plan. And unfortunately, this sort of moment that we find ourselves in, we have to think through the worst outcomes, and to really think through what that would mean, not only for you, but for your staff. You know, many operators that are listening, and many operators that will be listening, the experience of having to lay off your staff members is so painful, so painful. So really compile all of the resources and really understand that, like, humanizing a difficult conversation can really lay a foundation for recovery in a way that, like, it's the bravest thing that you can do, is to have a real conversation about an unfortunate circumstance, so that everyone can learn from it and be resourced to sort of recover from it. And so this could look like, you know, reaching out to advocacy groups that support undocumented communities. And it's not just our Latinx community. There are many Asian Americans and Black members of our community that are undocumented as well. So it's really important to understand where all of those resources may be. On top of that, like, do you have the phone number of a grief counselor? Because maybe as an operator, you're not situated to be able to help someone understand what loss may feel like or may come as. And maybe it also may not be the most appropriate way for you to counsel someone. So like, have those resources handy and really do you know, just like you do your prep lists for your chefs and your front of house and your opening and your closing and your side work. Like, as an operator, it's just as important to have a checklist about these circumstances that are very human, because at the end of the day, what makes Bay Area hospitality so special is that we're all really highly capable of taking care of our guests. So let's make sure that we're also highly capable of taking care of our colleagues and our peers by being prepared with a plan.
Yes, that's excellent. Thank you, Vinny. Thank you.
I think it would be great. I know that many owners and managers are already so spread thin, but if they could do like weekly check-ins, or, you know, just taking some time out of the week to check in with your staff, you know, personally, you know, it shows them that you care, and maybe you can see like where they're at in their life. And then maybe also in the like the break room or the office, having a list of the resources. So, you know, maybe like resources for counseling or for addiction or anything, so that if someone's dealing with something, they can refer to that list, and, you know, without bothering anybody, or, you know, without having to you know, we already put up the minimum sign. We could also put up like a sign of places that can help you. You know, we could put up the number that Vinny has or things like that.
Excellent. And I know Shirley has an amazing document that she had shared on a panel we were on together with recently. And if I know I briefly asked you that before, but if you're comfortable with it, I'll see if I can find a way if the GGRA can post that document around our call. It's a great list of local resources that Shirley had compiled. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually from the city of San Francisco. That it's something that when I worked at shelters and clinics, it's something that they update constantly. So it has everything in there, and everything's up to date. And there's also the pandemic one, so you have the updated office hours as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, I would say, you know, to Vinny's point about having a plan, you know, we're in a huge time of reset right now. And what we come out of with, and no plan will be perfect. And so that's the first thing, I think, you know, humanizing it and making it as honest. And as, you know, this is where we are at with the information that we have, I think is important, because we are going, you know, as people will come out of this through in different in different states mentally, it will be important for us to be leaders. And also we need to know that we don't need to create all of these systems and plans. There are other industries that are a lot better resourced coming up with plans and infrastructure that we can benefit from. I was on a webinar earlier this week, and the Mandarin Oriental in Hong Kong actually have started a 30-day re-entry plan for their employees to bring them back, and have made mental health the foundation of that plan, recognizing that, you know, bringing people back out of this terrible situation is going to take, you know, a reset and reminders, and, you know, reminders that it's not something we have done, it's a situation that we have been in. So I think we can take hope that, you know, there are other industries that are already kind of doing that work, and it's something that, let's hope that, you know, we can be the recipients of it maybe for once, instead of, you know, being the ones that are always giving.
Absolutely. That's excellent. Yeah, so we'll have time just to squeeze a couple questions in here, and some of them are nice and practical too, and timely. One of the questions would be on And actually, Yuka, I think this came from your mention of your GoFundMe, but anyone that has any thoughts on this of how they've raised funds in general. I know Vinny, with all the work at SF New Deal, I'm not sure how you guys are getting, I know there's a lot of volunteer work, but getting funding as well. But questions are, what methods are you using to spread the word, to raise staff, money for staff, either through GoFundMe or through some of these other great causes? How do we get the word out? What are practical ways you're raising funds in these crucial areas?
How to spread the word about your campaign?
Yeah.
Is that the question? I mean, social media is probably, you know, the best. I'm really thankful that social media and the internet and Zoom and all these things is in place this time. That is like one thing different from maybe like if SARS had come here in 2001 or something like that, we would not have this, you know, resources. So we're thankful. Luckily, you know, we have good relationship online with our core clientele, so that's always first for GoFundMe and stuff like that. So that was really good. But yeah, so I think social media is definitely way to go, and it's almost like the only one to go right now, right? So.
Right. Any other thoughts? Anyone else on that one? Spreading the word for.
Yeah, sure, Virginia. I think it's really important that you maintain a polite but, you know, frequent contact with your closest supporters. So not only the people that have invested in your restaurant, because but your regulars, the ones that like came in and supported you not just because you fed them, but because you really made them feel like they were whole and that they were seen. These individuals certainly do miss you, and they absolutely miss the staff that they know always takes care of their needs. And like a lot of people are really worried about their favorite neighborhood spot. So maintaining an open channel of communication with people that are part of your extended family, whether they're your extended guest family or extended restaurant family, is a really important way. And also realizing that like it's not just about financial resources. A lot of your colleagues and a lot of your employees may need assistance with talking to their landlords or filling out unemployment forms or looking over a resume. And like all of your guests have such a wealth of professional and personal experiences, and they're looking to help in ways. So, you know, everyone has something to offer and everyone has something to teach. And so, you know, really understanding what the needs are of the people that you care about the most, and then connecting them with people who are closest to that resource. And it isn't necessarily money.
So. I love that. That's an important point. And like, you know, there's a lot of, if you follow economics, a lot of the giving economy, and that's that very giving economy type of mentality, is get people involved well beyond just financial, because people are longing to help right now. And as mentioned, if they're already attached to your business or your product, if you're a distiller or a winemaker, if they're already attached to your product in any way, you know, you already got a willing community that might be able to contribute other things beyond finances. I love that. Anyone else have thoughts on that question?
One thing I would say is it's every single message, email, comments, not comments maybe, but a message, you know, that comes in Instagram, Facebook, email, phone calls, you know, people have left. I do return every single one of them. I think just being, if the guests or people that are reaching out to you, even people that you never met, but just like saw you on news article, like whatever, and then they want to email you, just replying to every single message. I can't stress enough how important that is. And there's so many businesses that don't. Like, you know, I try to make a reservation. Oh, I long for the days. But, you know, we go out with the staff a lot. And then, you know, I request like, you know, proposal for like the group parties and stuff like that. Maybe like out of 10 restaurants I contact, I get replied maybe 4, right? So, you know, just say hi. Just like, oh, I'm sorry, we're busy. You know, just say that, right? So I think that's also really good practice that people can start getting into. Reply to everything, because when they're contacting you, they want to talk to you, you know? So at least satisfy that need, you know, as service, right? As a hospitality, to be more welcoming. So I do emphasize that a lot, and then that will really bring, like, you know, build a strong relationship online, I feel like.
Great, thank you. Yeah, okay, we have, I think, time's flying by here. I have time for one more, and this one is real timely, from someone in Napa talking about the fact that they're kind of the first local county to be reopening already this week. So they're saying, you know, recommendations on how to kind of handle that reopening and the stress on the staff. They said they are reopening, but they have some staff that are pretty concerned and of course want to be there, but you know, we're not remotely out of this yet. So how to kind of deal with those fears for people that are already having to jump back in. And this of course applies to a lot of our friends around the country who are already reopened or reopening.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it is a tough one.
Yeah. Also, because in California, like, people can be getting almost $1,000 a week in an unemployment if their application went through. So I feel like it's not fair if the employer is asking them to come back in harm way almost, you know. And if they're not getting paid more than that, I don't think it's fair. So that will be my 2 cents. And I know it's really hard for like employers and operators, like we're all cash strapped, but that's not a reason to bring people in harm's way. My thing, what I've told, we're planning to open on June 1st, you know, start working, but we told them only if you feel okay to come, you know. If you feel not okay, it's please don't come. And then the time you're scheduled, you're gonna get sick pay, you know. So so that will be my 2 cents.
And thankfully, legally in California, I've been seeing, I think there's still that allowance for employees that are still concerned for health reasons not to come back, that they could keep getting unemployment, but I don't think that's going to be true in every state.
Yeah.
Again, I can't reiterate enough, like, to really, before that first guest comes through the door, just be really clear on paper and in training, like invest in training your staff. Scenario-based training. You know, what happens if someone isn't wearing a mask? What happens if someone tells you that they've tested positive for COVID-19? Where's the closest testing site where you can get tested for free? What's the commitment from the employer side about how many shifts you're committing to? Having a set schedule is really important so that people can plan for childcare. You know, these are all, like, before you open, really run through all the scenarios and present this as a comprehensive plan to your staff. And if you put in the time and effort into understanding all the potential situations that might challenge someone's safety or feeling of safety, but at least you have an answer, that goes a really long way into assuring everyone that comes back to your space that they feel safe and that there's a protocol. And if your staff members feel safe, then they're going to be invested in keeping a safe environment for guests. And it's a positive feedback loop. There are resources out there. It's not, this is when you reopen, imagine that you're reopening for good, not just reopening for until the next wave. And if you build these systems now properly, methodically, with as much input as possible, you're going to find that you'll retain your employees, and retention is really going to be a big challenge for everyone in this industry, because, you know, I don't know about any of you, but a lot of people have, a lot of service workers don't even live in San Francisco. So finding people who are going to be able to commute to work is going to be a challenge, especially if public transportation continues to be limited in its operation. And, you know, there are a ton of external factors. Control what you can control, and part of that control is your operating plan. So really work with people to come up with a real diligent operating plan that you train all of your staff on, so that they feel like they have all the answers and they can be responsive instead of reactive.
Excellent. Thank you.
I really like that idea of having trainings beforehand. So, you know, if we have an answer, you know, it'll make us feel safer. And I know a lot of us are are also afraid to go back to work, and you know, we have families, and you know, coming back to our families at night, and wondering if, you know, if we've been exposed. So, you know, having open dialogue with your staff, and that I like Vinny was saying, having those trainings in the beginning, I think would really, I think is a great idea. It would really help out a lot.
Excellent, thank you. Beck, any parting thoughts?
No, not on restaurant reopening. I would say, you know, there's a lot of wineries that are still operating. Certainly in France and Italy, obviously they've been in lockdown, and so having workers come to work to feel safe, as you know, because there's grapes growing and, you know, things fermenting. It all comes down to trust in the leadership, and the leadership has to have, to Vinny's point and everyone's point, you know, a plan, and it has to be one based on fact, and that comes down to knowing where the good resources are, because there's no shortage of propaganda and paranoia right now, and it's really important to keep things practical and to keep things factual, and work with what you have and be prepared to move if things change. But have that vision that you are back for the long term, and that vision and that belief is what your team will buy into. You know, if they trust you, you know, you're off to a good start for sure.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. I so appreciate the wisdom and experience of everyone here, and the empathy. I know you've all been in the industry a long time and are contributing so much behind these thoughts. So it's really meaningful to have each of you here with us. So thank you very much, and I'll hand it back over to Stacy to close us out here.
Yes, well, I want to echo Virginia. I want to thank all of our panelists, and to you, Virginia, as well. I actually felt it was a privilege to hear from all of you and to hear your valuable insights and resources. I hope that those who are listening on the webinar today, and this will be made available later for folks who are unable to attend in this moment. So again, thanks to everyone joining us today, and wanted to remind you that this is a webinar series, and so we'll be continuing with new topics each week. Next week's topic is shifting your models, so looking at how you can redesign your restaurant space for success. We'll have another set of engaging panelists, including interior designers, architects, and chefs in the Bay Area. So be sure to sign up for our newsletter. You'll get all the information made available to you there, as well as our Facebook page, which is our GGRA members. We've opened it up as a complimentary membership for the time. So please check us out. And if you have any questions or any follow-up, we'll have a newsletter coming out with a link to this panel, and then also some of the resources that were mentioned here. We'll be sure to include those as well. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.